me an opportunity to, for what cost you an entire season to have to try to get these things in your system, I can learn most of it in a matter of minutes. And I peel back the layers of the years, by having these conversations with you guys, and I really appreciate it. But for the listeners to understand, if you're not part of a supporters group out there, go find one, and I'm going to tell you why. When they had the North American tour this year, we went to Chicago. Simon was there. We had a 25 or 30 people from Dallas Spurs that made the trip, or people that we knew around the country. So we were there as a big group, singing. New York Spurs was there, Chicago Spurs was there. There were Spurs fans from all over, including other countries. And we sang our guts out. We won the match. We drank ourselves fierce, and had a nice pregame party out with all the other supporters groups, Milwaukee Spurs and LA, and just a few that just ring a bell that we met. And when it was all said and done, and we were kind of putting things away, Simon looked over at me. He says, "For as long as I've been a Spurs fan, and for all the games I've seen at the Lane, I have never had so much fun as I did today, because it was with all the people that we do this with all the time." And that really meant a lot to me. I mean, and Simon, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we were singing, "Oh, when the Spurs," when we were getting down toward near the end of it and stuff, you almost had tears in your eyes, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, I think to try and put that into perspective.
I mean, is it a matter of childhood pride? I mean, and it's like, look at all these people.
It is. We talked yesterday about. I think after the game we talked about. But the only time for me watching a game and the performance of the team where tears were in my eyes, and I explained it was the Champions League game where we lost 4-3 to Milan, and Bale got that hat-trick in the second half. You were so proud of the fight back of the team, being down to 10 men for most of the game, and you expected to get battered 6-7-0 by the end of it, and we didn't, and they showed great heart. But anyway, I digress. What really makes a difference was the collective group in Chicago. I've never experienced that when I go to the Lane, because a lot of the times I go now, I have a contact at the club, and I'm typically with people that aren't necessarily going to be there week in, week out. And I think the season ticket holders who are in the Paxton or the Park Lane, they're experiencing that week in, week out, because they know all those people that are around them. They're down the Bell and Hare or the Bricklayers before kick-off with those folks. And yeah, we know a bunch of those on Twitter and who follow us on our Facebook pages, but it's being there, it's the physical camaraderie and being able to hug someone when you score a goal, or hold your head in your hands collectively when you let a howler in. But I experienced that in Chicago, and that was phenomenal. But to piggyback on the knowledge thing, call me a bit of an anorak, but I just love the history of this club and what we've done in the glory days. And hopefully, if you've been following us on Facebook, the journey that's coming to an end on this day in Spurs history has been very enlightening to me. So I've learned stuff as I've dug up some of these nuggets of wisdom. Whether I've struggled during the off-season to find anything that happened, but it's been a great journey, and that's really helped me. And hopefully people who've read the posts have liked what we've put out there. It's nothing I've created. It's Tottenham's history. I'm just the narrator of what has gone on in the last almost 130 odd years, and it's a club that's rich in history. It's had its moments where there wasn't a lot going on. It's had its moments where a lot was going on. And, the last 40, 50 years, we are a big club. There's been some years where it's not been so good to say we're a big club. But on the collective whole, we're a big club, and we should be proud of that.
Yeah, we should be. Sam, how do you feel about this? I mean, because of the Sunday matches, and you and I have talked about this, you haven't had an opportunity to come out to the pub as much because you have other family obligations going on that day. But is it the same for you, being someone who is from there, and then you come back over? Obviously, you came over, younger. You were like 12 or 13, I think you had told me. So you've lost most, if not all, of your accent. So people may not know that, except for a couple of episodes where we've kind of mentioned it. But does it? I don't know. Does it warm your heart a little bit to see how far football has come, as far as even the EPL game is so much more, paid attention to, I guess, and renowned with the American supporter than MLS is even.
No, absolutely, massively so. I mean, look, and I think Simon sort of spoke to this earlier. It was like being in Siberia. I mean, it really was. I mean, if you were a football fan here 20 years ago, I mean, nobody knew what you were talking about. You really nobody to talk to unless you sort of ran into the odd Englishman along the way. There was no real way to stay current. It was very difficult. Frankly, have to ring up a friend or a relative. So yeah, and it's been personally for me, it's like I've had to sort of not keep it a secret, but I really had not had a lot of people to really share this with. And so now in the last 5 years, this explosion, and I praise you all the time for how knowledgeable you are, because as Simon said, I mean, we are a club rich in history. Like my kids, for example, they know it's like post Gareth Bale, right? But the other night we were watching one of the I made them watch one of that really long and fantastic Yidvids video, because our history is so rich and so deep. And so now there's people, these Americans, right, that's never ever would ever in their wildest dreams admit that they would enjoy what we call football, soccer.
Right.
They do now. And they have a genuine interest that they now understand that there's a whole lot that they don't know. So history becomes enjoyable and important. And so yeah, I mean, I have I thank Simon and Kieran and you all the time. And I'm now sort of assimilating into this gigantic group, because it is. I mean, Dallas Spurs is huge. We're 100-fold, and I had such a blast yesterday. So it warms my heart. I'm very grateful.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. Go ahead, Simon.
Yeah, can we piggyback on yesterday?
Sure.
If our listeners are, Dallas Spurs members, which they are, because we posted on the big page. Yesterday warmed the cockles in my heart, because we pulled this off in about 10 days. I think
it was quick
to do this. We held a raffle. We raised a ton of money. The pub. Big shout out to Trinity Hall down at Mockingbird Station. They bought us around. We were going to buy our members around anyway. That's what our funds are for. But they bought us around, and we took care of the bartenders who take care of us week in, week out. Excellent service anytime we're there, and just to see everyone in their clusters, talking, enjoying themselves, enjoying the Christmas season.
Yeah.
It was awesome, and that's what really makes it all worthwhile for me.
Yeah.
We all put in some hours behind the scenes for to drive the club forward, but to have these watch parties and to see people enjoy themselves and meet new friends, that's the most important thing to me. Win, lose or draw, we're Tottenham until we die. We know that, but it's those people that are there. Having fun. That's why we have the club.
Yeah.
I truly never thought I'd see the day. I'm not bullshitting. I'm dead serious. I never thought that I could go to and by the Trinity Hall is a Spurs pub now. I mean, to go in a place like that and see 50 people and so knowledgeable, so enthused. I never thought I'd see the day.
Yeah, you haven't even seen the heavy ones yet. I mean that we started off the year, 85 people I think for West Ham, and in the North London Derby we had about the same number, and then of course you've got a dozen to 15 disillusioned people wearing red that are also in there.
Brilliant 2 weeks ago now. They were cordoned off.
Yeah.
There's like 5 of them.
And you have to remember, yesterday I think there were 4 games being shown. There were 4 West Ham fans stuck in the corner watching their tiny TV.
Yep.
The corner we used to be in a couple of years ago, you had about 8 Mancs watching their side struggle against Villa.
Yep.
And you had 2 people watching the great Lionel Messi win 5-0 with Barcelona on another TV. And then we have almost 40 people there yesterday.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right, Sam. It's the Tottenham pub.
Yeah.
Stay out, Gooners.
That's it. Yep. Yeah, no red allowed.
I loved it. My first time there, a couple of weeks ago, and they were off in the corner. And remember, they were 3-0. Wasn't they 3-0 down at one point against?
Against Stoke.
Yep.
Well, we couldn't really laugh much because we were doing our best to pants it up against Palace.
Yeah.
But it was still quite an enjoyable day.
It was indeed.
Yeah, and it's funny as you guys listen, and one of the things that you're going to realize, this is not going to be the only time Simon's on. He's going to be welcome back as often as I can get him on. He is a virtual encyclopedia of not only Tottenham knowledge, but just football knowledge in general about the English Premier League. It's going to be so valuable having him on, his insight, the behind the scenes stuff. And so, Simon, I personally wanted to thank you for coming on the show. This was something that last year when I started listening to podcasts, I didn't always agree, and I've said it on here before. I wanted to do this just so I could have a voice, and didn't realize I'd be doing it every week. But you have to, just to keep up with the times, to understand that every week this club takes you on a journey that just sends you in one direction one week and then some other direction the very next week. If you take more than 2 or 3 weeks away from doing this, you really become lost as a fan who's relying on these podcasts. And you do. People look forward to this, and that was the other thing that I didn't realize. I get a lot of messages thanking us for doing this, thanking us for our knowledge, thanking us for just taking the time to put this together. And some of the feedback I've gotten from our Dallas Spurs fans is that it's very well done, it's very professionally done. There's a lot, I'm learning this on the fly. Sam's learning this on the fly. We didn't know anything about microphones and mixers and headsets and all this garbage. We do this via Skype. Yeah, go ahead, Sam. You were gonna.
No, just we're on the ground floor.
This is just the beginning. And I know that there's a lot more that can be done and can become, because I've watched what Simon has done with Dallas Spurs. And so I know that a year from now we may be just exponentially better than what we are now. And that's the hope. I look at the Twitter page and we're just a gnat's ass away from 500 followers, and I was like, I've never in a million years thought we'd be doing that. And knowing that there's a lot more to gain out there. And so I appreciate it. The knowledge base it's intimidating, but it's also it's nice to know that it's there. Anything that I need to know about this club, about the history, about what would happen, I can always go to Simon. I can always go to Kieran. I can always go to Sam. So to you guys, Corby, Mr. Camacho, the rest of the board, all the fans, all the people who come out to the pub every week, I thank you. It's something that we really enjoy doing and getting together every weekend, and I can't think of any other group of people that I would rather be doing this. I'm so glad that I chose this as my club.
You've done well. But there is one person in this world that you would shuck us all for, and that's Coco Lamela.
That is Coco Lamela. It is. Yeah. No one else exists, really.
Well, back at you, Kenny. A lot of people would, us included, and a lot of other people thank you for what you do. So
and in the middle of all that, we did mention today is Steve Perryman's birthday, 63 years old, and as Simon had mentioned to me off the air earlier, 852 first-team appearances.
Legend.
852. Just so you guys heard that clear, that's amazing to me. Multiply that times 10 kilometers per match. That's a lot of running, man.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
If you look at the statistics I put on the Dallas Spurs page for today, because it's his birthday and we did on this Spurs Day in History.
Yep.
He debuted in 1969. Was his when he signed pro forms and played later on that year. He went on to make 654 league appearances, 69 FA Cup appearances, 66 League Cup appearances, and 63 European appearances for the club.
Wow.
Granted, the 70s were the early 70s were the halcyon days for us in the League Cups and in the UEFA Cup as it was back then, and we were in it with very strong runs for 3 straight years, so he was certainly going to rack up the appearances. Then of course we did that again in the early 80s when we started winning the FA Cup, so
yep.
He was with the club for an extremely long amount of time, and it broke my heart, I think, as much as it broke his heart when he was transferred to Oxford in, when was it, 86?
Yeah.
He's director of football at Exeter now, but he'll always tell you he's Tottenham through and through. That's where his heart is.
Yep.
And I have a lot of respect for that man. He was an unsung hero on the world stage of football, but he was bigger than probably